Norbergen here, taking you on an insider's tour of Jasper National Park. Today, I'd like to take just a few minutes of your time and show to you and explain a little bit about the antlers from our wildlife. One of the interesting things, folks, in relation to the antlers with our deer family, so that's the elk, the moose, the deer, the white-tailed deer, the mule deer, and the caribou. The interesting thing is they lose their antlers every year somewhere between the end of November and the end of February. Now when that huge amount of antler just drops off in the forest somewhere, it doesn't go to waste. There are many animals that find them and chew them. The minerals are very valuable to them and their survival. This is an antler from a mule deer buck. They are always very distinctive, not just in the coloring, their ears, the black tip on their tail, a little darker body and fur, but you take a look at the antlers. The antlers are all in a V or in a Y shape. Every one of them is always the same, the big V and the big Y. That is a mule deer antler. In comparison, of course, to the whitetail. And the whitetail antler is always a non-typical, unique in its formation, so entirely different. The mule deer and the whitetail. This is a 7-point bull elk. So count the points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the top one makes 7. So 7-point elk. He was a big boy. You can see the diameter of the antler, so we know he was a strong, big bull elk. They're heavy. Can you imagine having 2 of these on top of your head, between your eye and your ears? If you take a look at it, of course, you will see all of the blood vessels that were once in these antlers. You see, they start off as just little bumps on top of their heads, and they grow rapidly into these huge antlers, and they fall off every year, sometime between the end of November and the end of February. So it's always exciting to be able to see them, especially when they're in the velvet. And then they will strip the velvet off of the outside, which is the protective covering, of course, for the blood vessels. And then the tips of the antlers, when they're in velvet, will start to turn to just a little shade of gray, and that means that the bone is starting to die and harden. And they get ready, of course, for the fall rut season. So when you look at that antler, you ponder, how can a creature of this nature run through the forest without apprehension? Well, folks, what he does, this antler sits on his head like this. He lifts up his nose. The antler settles down on his back, and he can run through the forest just as quick as the female elk can, or the little ones. When it comes to battle time, when the males call each other to challenge each other for who is going to get the ladies, the nose goes to the ground. The antlers come forward. It's just a pushing contest to see who is going to slow down first. That's where it's attached to the skull, folks. Right here. And this is where the blood vessels are going up. And when this antler falls off, it looks like just a round, open ball of flesh up on top. And it's all red and it's got some blood on it. And it looks kind of yucky. But it's just nature taking its course. Some people like to get way too close to these animals. That can be dangerous when you invade their space. Give them some room. These people were very fortunate that they were in a vehicle. Could you imagine if this happened to you when you were walking? Then we want to look at the antlers from our moose. This is a bull moose, and it's very, very heavy. Once again, if you look closely, you can see all the bloodlines. You can see all the blood vessels where they were, that were ensuring the good and healthy growth of that antler. And you look at the back, you can see all of those areas as well. These were growing at a tremendous rate during the months end of May, June, and July. And The elk antlers, for an example, would grow at an inch per day. I believe these even grow faster. They are massive, absolutely beautiful, 2 on their heads. And of course, now as we're getting close to mating season, the competition begins. And the big boys like to charge at each other and see who is going to be the ruler of that area of the forest. Stay safe, be well, and I'll see you in the mountains.
This land